Forever. All right, live inside America's election headquarters now, we've got a new Fox News poll on the GOP presidential contenders. Take a look. You've got former Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney leading the pack for presidential preference. He's got 18%. On the other end, former Minnesota Governor Tim Pawlenty lagging with just 3%. I spoke with the former governor. We sat down yesterday, talk about these numbers a little bit. Take a listen. We're very glad to be joined by former Minnesota Governor Tim Pawlenty. Good morning, Governor. Good to see you.
Good morning, Martha. Good to be with you.
Well, I'm sure that you'd like to be at the top of those poll numbers. So what do you say about the fact that you're grouped in there right now with Huntsman and Gingrich?
Well, a few things. One is it's good that there's not a prohibitive favorite because that gives the lesser-known candidates like me time and space to make our case to Republican voters and all voters across the country. Two is when we find that I get my record in Minnesota reducing taxes and spending and doing health care reform the right way and many other things before Republican voters, we get more support, so there's a hopeful sign there. And then lastly, this is only just beginning. It's like being in the warm-ups or the preseason, and the real campaign is going to start here shortly. And I think you'll see those numbers move as we get into the fall and early winter.
Some people say that the Republican side needs a very strong kind of contrast person on the other side, and that they want to see somebody who, is a little bit more forceful in terms of their message. And you tend to be, even talked about as a nice guy and all of that stuff. Does that tick you off at all?
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with being a nice guy, but you also have to be strong. And if you look at my record in Minnesota, there's no Democrat or no folks in Minnesota who say I wasn't strong. I had the first government shutdown in 150 years. I set a record for vetoes. I took more money out of the budget using executive power than all the other governors combined in my state, and fought big battles and won most of them. So a lot of folks talk, but the real question is, what are your results? And if you look at the record that I have, I'd put that up against anybody in the field and then some. And so this isn't a matter of flapping your jaw. It's about getting stuff done. And do you have the fortitude and the resolve to do it? And my record reflects that I do. And I think people will look at that in the end.
So given that, you see Rick Perry, who hasn't announced that he's running for the GOP nomination, in second place there with 13%. What goes through your mind when you see that? What do you think, what's he doing right and what am I doing wrong, perhaps?
Well, I think of Rudy Giuliani and Hillary Clinton because in the last election cycle and most of these election cycles, with all due respect to your poll, they don't really predict the winner. They're almost always wrong as in terms of indicating the eventual winner. Hillary Clinton was way ahead of Barack Obama. Rudy Giuliani was the prohibitive frontrunner last time, and of course it all changed, as it almost always does. So to suggest the polling in the summer before the election year predicts how this may go is really mostly just speculation. So I'm actually optimistic about this because I'm not as well known as the other candidates, and as I become well known, I believe we're going to see those numbers move in a positive way for my campaign.
And we know you're working hard at that, out there campaigning in a very serious way. I'm curious, for somebody who would like to see themselves in the position that President Obama is in right now, what you thought of that news conference and the way he kind of dealt it to folks in Congress, saying that they weren't getting their job done. He's been accused of not being enough in this process. What was your reaction to the way he handled that?
Well, I listened to it, and obviously he was scolding the Congress and on a partisan level. But when you look at his record of not engaging on the big issues of the day, I mean, this is a country that is sinking, Martha. It is drowning in debt. It's one of the major issues of our time. And you can't find him in terms of leadership or specifics on how we're going to fix Social Security, how we're going to fix Medicare, how we're going to fix Medicaid. When he announces big, even military or national security initiatives like the drawdown in Afghanistan. Coincidentally, it seems to be timed to the election cycle. When he initially announced the surge in Afghanistan, he simultaneously announced a date for withdrawal to placate the left wing of his party. So again, he's the campaigner-in-chief who has all these words, but when it comes to actual results and willingness to lead and take risks, particularly on the big issues, he's almost always tardy, delayed, or missing.
All right, Tim Pawlenty, we'll be watching on the campaign trail, and we'll be talking to you a lot here, I suppose, in the coming months.